Alright, I've been MIA for far too long, so let's change that, and what better way than to start with a weekly news update. As always, a huge thank you to all of my channel members and people supporting me over on Twitch, because you are the reason I can keep making these videos. Before we talk about specific items, we need to cover two events. Fractal Rush is currently ongoing and is a great way to earn some extra currency and even an Ascended Amulet, so go and run whatever tier you are comfortable at. If you're new to them, you actually don't need anything but a good build and a decent set of exotic gear for most of the tier 1 fractals. The second event that's currently ongoing is the PvP Push Beta. We've got a bit more time before this comes to an end on September 24, but if you want an exclusive beta tester title, go and unlock the final Persimmon chest. Depending on how often you win, you'll need anywhere from just over 30 games to a couple over 100. So for most of us, that means 50 to 70 games, but the good news is that they're relatively fast. Last week, I talked extensively about how the price of Ectos fell since there was no immediate Ectosync in the Janthir wilds, which is a trend that continued over the past week as well. And we might not even have seen the end of this road yet, as supply actually overtook demand for a moment and is still lingering pretty close. Apart from that lonely buy order, the buy price is actually closer to 30 silver than it is to 40 right now. As long as the sell price holds though, crafting Ectos seems to be a very valid way to spend your time. Dying Star, one of our longtime family members, made a spreadsheet to make this process easier. So feel free to join the Discord or check out the video in the description if you want to learn how to craft rares for profit by salvaging them into Ectos and crystalline dust. Ecto prices getting lower should also have a knock-on effect on the price of other materials and recipes. I already mentioned crystalline dust, which is still worth obtaining by salvaging Ectos with a silver-fed salvage-o-matic or an equivalent salvage kit. Last week, I also spoke about rift motivations, which are still worth crafting for profit right now, and they're actually the best output for your fine and masterwork motivations at this very moment. So go and do your weekly convergences, which should only take you about an hour a week. I'll look into hosting some myself when I go live, probably near the middle of the week if you want to join those. You can't craft rare essences into motivations, but you can exchange those for Season 4 currency boxes and get some Volatile Magic to spend on trophy shipments instead. Each of these is just under 1 gold of profit, so if you don't know what to do and you have about 20 minutes of time per day, make sure to run around to Bjora Marches and gather all of the Eternal Ice Shards and open the essence chests. Alternatively, you could also just park your characters near these chests if you don't want to do a full tour. This also means that doing the daily IBS 5 strikes is worth considering, as you will get a good amount of ice shards as well as some other items from those. And once you get comfortable playing strikes, I'd highly recommend trying the challenge modes of the Aetherblade Hideout, Sunlight Jade Junkyard and the Cosmic Observatory. All three are relatively easy to learn and you can usually find a pug that doesn't require tons of kill proof. Janthir wild material prices keep plummeting and are now all 4 below 10 silver each. A daily tour of the lowland shore for honeyflowers and pine logs is still a good way to get a bit of extra gold in your wallet, but this is becoming less and less attractive every single week. What is interesting to take note of is the supply and demand of these four. Except for the honeyflowers, supply always exceeds demand, which makes sense why there is downward pressure on their price. But the flowers are actually undersupplied, and despite this, we see them fall together with the rest of the others. Mercad runestones got a price bump since my latest video, and that is because their drop rate was stealth nerfed. Prior to last week, you would get a runestone for almost every single cache you opened, regardless of their quality. Now the lesser and minor caches give you next to no runestones anymore. I've adapted my own farming routine to just flying around the map on my sky scale and only opening the major caches before joining a group to get the 2 or 3 mythical caches in the lowland shores and the one in the Janthir Sintry. Demand for these still outweighs the supply 3 to 1, and I've done this exercise before, but 12.7k runestones isn't all that much depending on how many we'll need for a legendary spear. And speaking about Janthir wild materials, the ingredients of a lot of homestead recipes are coming down in price as well. Except maybe for jungle grass, the top 3 saw their price drop quite harshly. There are of course some items on the list that won't be as impacted by the homesteads, but rather by balance changes. Maguma lilies, for example, are needed for the relics and the runes of the afflicted, as well as trailblazer insignias and inscriptions. So whatever the balance team decides is bound to have more impact on these, much like they have impacted freshwater pearls in the past. And while we're on the topic of homesteads, let's take a closer look at the tubs of wood glue, which is a bit of a fringe case to be honest. This item shot up in price after the homesteads teaser weeks before launch and is now sitting at 25 to 40 silver depending on what price you're looking at. You can acquire these by either spending guild commendations or Ursus obliges. The problem is that neither of those are best spent on the tubs, as both have a way better output. This doesn't necessarily mean that the tubs prices will go up, because the demand still can't keep pace with supply. So if you're into homestead decorating, your best bet is actually buying these from the trading post, unless they become much cheaper to acquire or much more expensive to sell again. With all of this new content, it's easy to forget about some of our previous moneymakers. But if you still consistently run Soto metas or have a bunch of currency lying around, then crafting Storm's Eye, Stormforged and Consecrated Sarix weapons is still an incredible profit, even if you instant sell them, by the way. You could get 15 to 30 gold on top of the meta event rewards if you were to run all 3 daily. Let's keep it at that for now. As per usual, a huge thank you to everyone that is supporting me either on Twitch or on YouTube, because you really are the reason I can keep making these videos. Feel free to also join our Discord, which now has over 1,500 members, and we're setting up weekly raids and often discuss build and gold making tips and show off the occasional cat and dog pictures.